We're gonna show you how to make one of these for under $100.
This is a bioactive vivarium. It's a living and self-sustaining ecosystem with plants and animals. They make great homes for all sorts of critters. Building vivariums is a great hobby, but it can also be a pretty expensive one.
Welcome back to Tangled Earth Vivariums. Today we are going to show you how to build a vivarium on a budget, with this vivarium as our example.
The first thing that you're going to need for your vivarium is a tank to put it in, and usually this is the most expensive part of your build. A tank like this one can cost $80 or even more if you buy it online and have to deal with shipping. So let's find a way to cut that down.
These tanks with the front opening doors are made for reptiles and amphibians, and while it's really convenient to be able to open the tank from the front, they are not the only tanks out there. Aquariums or other tanks where the opening is at the top are way more common and usually more affordable. Petco will have sales a few times a year. Sometimes they have a $1 per gallon sale, so you can get a tank like this sometimes for under $20.
There's definitely some cons to taking an aquarium and trying to convert it to a vivarium though. It's rare to find a tall aquarium, so you're going to be limited to square ones or long ones. And then also you're going to have to make sure that you can find a lid that's appropriate for whatever animal you're keeping. You can buy one or you can try and make one using scrap pieces of acrylic or window screen mesh and stuff like that, which are usually pretty affordable.
If you want to stick with the front opening tanks, takedown tanks might be a good option for you. Especially when they get larger, takedown tanks tend to be more affordable. A takedown tank basically means it comes disassembled, kind of like an IKEA furniture, and you have to assemble it yourself. They're usually made of lighter materials and are easier to move around. And something that we always like to do is to reinforce the takedown tank to make sure that it could be watertight.
Yeah, so we usually run a bead of silicone around, and we always make sure to do a water test before we scape our tank, because you would hate to scape your whole tank and then you pour in water for the drainage layer and it springs a leak somewhere.
And we've linked down some of the tanks we've used before down below if you're interested.
The final option is our favorite for budget tanks, but it does require a little bit of luck. You can usually find tanks for sale secondhand. We've had a good amount of luck with Facebook Marketplace, looking in our nearby area for tanks that are available super cheap or even for free. And often these tanks are going to require some cleaning, or they might even be a little bit damaged. We like to cover up all the walls of our tanks with Hardscape anyway, so we don't mind if the walls are a little banged up as long as those front doors are still clean and look good.
Something that you might try to do, which we've done before with a Zoom Med tank, is email their customer service and ask to get or buy a replacement door if the door that you've gotten is broken or not in great condition, and they might be able to sell you a spare part instead of having to buy a whole new tank.
If you're lucky and you're picking up these used tanks, you might even be able to recycle some of the materials from whatever scape or setup that they had in there before. That's going to save you a bit of extra cash as well. We snagged this used 12 by 12 by 18 off Facebook Marketplace for $40, which is around 50% off, which is a great deal. And this is the tank that we're going to be scaping in today's video.
All right, so let's get started. First, we cleaned it up thoroughly and saved all the materials that it came with, such as the rocks, the sticks, and the dirts, because we might use it later for our scape.
The next thing your budget vivarium is going to need is hardscape. Hardscape is like the bones of your tank. It could be branches, stones, pieces of cork bark, anything hard that gives your tank its structure beneath all the plants, the dirt, and the moss.
One of the biggest mistakes we see people do is to skimp out on their hardscape and not use enough. Especially when you're on a budget, you might just want to put one stick in there and call it a day. But if you are going for that dense jungle look, it is really important to use a lot of hardscape.
Unfortunately, hardscape is not very cheap, especially if you try and get it at your local reptile store.
So what can you do instead?
Well, if you go to a reptile fair, there's often booths that sell hardscape for way more reasonable rates. The people who vend at fairs, they might not have a physical storefront, they might not need to pay for their rent or the upkeep at that storefront, so they're able to, buy in bulk and sell it for less than a store might be able to sell it.
You could also try buying it online in smaller amounts. This will generally get you a decent amount of wood for a lower cost than you might find in person, but it comes with the downside of not being able to select the specific hardscape pieces that you want. Buying it online can also be a fun and exciting experience, kind of like opening up a blind box. So you never really know exactly what you're gonna get, but for the most part, we've been really happy with the selection that we've been able to find online.
So this method of placing these small online orders is what we used to do for all our tanks before we started buying in bulk. If you are building a lot, and we mean like a lot of tanks, you might want to consider buying in bulk. This is by far going to be the cheapest rate per stick, but it's probably going to cost you $100 minimum, and you're going to be left with maybe more hardscape than you know what to do with. So we get our stuff in bulk from wholesale virgin cork, and again, they'll be linked down below.
Finally, you could always try to find and forage your hardscape outdoors. This can be very straightforward or a lot more difficult depending on where you live or what season it is.
Master aquascapers at ADA can make awesome masterpieces with large Hakai stones that they just find outside on the ground. But where we live, the rocks are not quite as interesting. If you forage your wood, make sure that it is dry fully and it's not rotting or decaying at all. Stay away from woods like redwood and pine that have a distinctive odor. That comes from certain oils that might be toxic to your pets, or those fumes might build up inside a sealed box and gas your pets, basically. Once you've collected all your sticks, you're gonna need to sterilize them and dry them by baking at around 200 degrees for at least an hour, which is a long time, and keep your eye on them so you do not burn down your house or anything. This baking process is going to kill any hitchhikers that might be on those sticks. You do not want to bring ants, termites, or other creatures inside your vivarium.
Or your house.
Or your house.
Foraging your wood can give your hardscape a really interesting look, but it can also be difficult to find some interesting pieces. So for this build, we ordered a pack online. We got a mystery pack of 3 pieces of Mapani driftwood for $20 off Amazon, and we'll link it down below. Using our Amazon affiliate links is a great way for you guys to support the channel.
If you're ever curious about the materials that we use in a given build video, check out our Amazon storefront. We've got all our usual build materials, our tools, and our supplies listed for you.
Okay, back to the build. We glued all our wood in with black silicone. 1 tube of silicone costs $9 to $15 and is more than enough for a tank this size. We recommend aquarium silicone, but any silicone that is 100% silicone with no additives like mold killer should be animal safe. We're doing our best to create a dynamic and interesting scape with these sticks. We also want to use them to create platforms to add depth, and these platforms will also give some room for the moss to grow on and critters to hang out on.
Next up is the background. There are a lot of different ways to make a vivarium background, but we're going to focus on 3 of the most affordable for you today. First off is the dry lock method. For this, you're going to build your background out of insulation foam and then coat it in a tintable dry lock. Dry lock dries as a hard, concrete-like material that feels similar to rock. By using different pigments mixed into the dry lock, you can paint all sorts of different colors on your background. You're really not going to be able to find a can of dry lock for less than 35 bucks, and the pigments are going to cost you extra. So this can be a pretty expensive method for small tanks. Pink insulation foam is pretty cheap though, and 1 can of dry lock can get you a fully scaped 100-gallon, no problem, with dry lock to spare. So at larger tanks, this actually loops back around to being pretty cost effective again.
The second method we're going to talk about is the spray foam and silicone method. This is probably the most common vivarium background method. You spray expanding foam all over the walls to seal in your hardscape. After the spray foam cures, you can carve it to your desired shape. Then you're going to want to coat it with silicone and sprinkle substrate on the wet silicone for texture. It's great for blending things like plant pots or sticks directly into your background. For a tank this size, you'd probably use a full can of silicone plus some expanding foam, which is going to be another $12. Then you'll need extra substrate to cover all the walls. You probably won't need to spend more than $35 total on the spray foam, silicone, and substrate. For larger tanks, the cost of materials can add up quickly though. This method could also be pretty time consuming.
Finally, you can do carbonized cork. This is probably our favorite looking method. We use these panels of heat-treated carbonized cork. Typically, we like to use the 2-inch thick panels, which we break up into uneven chunks and silicone straight to our walls. You can get 3 square feet from Zoro for $30 plus shipping, which is enough for 2 to 3 18 by 18 by 24s, which makes it by far the most budget-friendly option. To save even more money for this tank, we ordered the 1/2 inch thick sheet. This was only $10 for 3 square feet, which is way cheaper than any of our other options and cheaper than the 2-inch thick panels. We siliconed it to the walls and layered it up in sections where we wanted some additional depth. We also used it to supplement our hardscape by putting it perpendicular to the wall to make shelves for like the moss to grow on and stuff. So far the tank is looking really good, and we spent $65 so far, including shipping on our various materials.
But the free trial ends here. The rest of this video is for subscribers only, so if you want to watch it, please be sure to hit the subscribe button, and let's continue. You did it, right?
Next up is blacking out the tank. During this step, we make sure that light from outside the tank doesn't shine through our background. A lot of people skip this step, but we think it is so important. It's going to make your shadows look super deep and dark and boost all the contrast in your tank.
It also gives a really sleek and professional look from the outside as well. You can black out your tanks with something like spray paint or Plasti Dip, which is a spray-on rubber that you can peel off. Just make sure to tape off all of the parts that you don't want to get sprayed, like the edges of the front of your tank. Either of these options could cost you between $7 and $15.
If you have paint on hand already, you can also brush the paint on, but brush strokes might leave you with a less clean and professional look. Our favorite method is peel and stick vinyl. It's easy to apply, it looks sleek, and it's removable. A roll of vinyl for a tank this size only costs $5, which is cheaper than any of our other options, so that is what we're going to use on this 12 by 12 by 18. We cut it to size, spray down the glass, peel the sticker, and apply it. It comes with a little squeegee so you can remove all the bubbles, but you can also use an old debit card or something like that if you don't have one.
The next thing we're going to need is a drainage layer. This is a layer beneath the soil where excess water can sit.
There's really only 2 options for this. You could use gravel or like ground up lava rock. You just put down a thick layer of gravel and then cover it with window screen mesh. Mesh stops soil from falling down and filling in all the little gaps between the gravel, and then water is still free to trickle down and sit in all the spaces between the rocks. This can be a very cheap option if you already have gravel or pebbles or something on hand, maybe if you have it for houseplants or aquariums or something like that, but if you don't already have it on hand, I think option 2 is better and generally more affordable.
Option 2 is black aquarium sponge. You can get these on Amazon for $7 to $8 per sheet, and they come in vacuum sealed, so you're gonna need to open it up and let it expand. We are usually impatient, so we expand it over some steam, and that only takes a few minutes. Aquarium sponge is our preferred method because we just think it looks really nice and sleek, it's black, and it's super lightweight, which is not something the gravel is being known for.
However, since we bought this tank secondhand and it already had gravel inside and some mesh, we're just going to repurpose that for this tank.
Okay, we are almost done and it's time for substrate.
Typically, we mix up our own substrate mix. We mix up aqua soil, sphagnum moss, orchid bark, that's a new addition, cocoa fiber, and activated charcoal. If you're just making one tank, that is a lot of stuff to just buy individually, so you can buy pre-mixed reptile mix that might be a little cheaper in small quantities.
Alternatively, you can forage for your dirt. This definitely takes more time to prepare before you can put it into your vivarium, but it's a free option. Try to gather dirt from an area where you don't think there would be a lot of pesticides, and since we're gathering the dirt outside, we're gonna have to sterilize it or cook it to make sure we kill off all those hitchhikers that we talked about before. You can put it onto a baking sheet, bake it in the oven, and if you want finer particles, you can put the dirt through a sieve to sieve out rocks and bigger things.
For this build, we are really seeing why getting those tanks secondhand can save you so much money. We've got Substrate too. The Substrate mix that they use seems to contain some sphagnum moss, maybe cocoa fiber, but it's kind of unclear what's in here. We're just gonna go with it because it's free and sprinkle it on top of our mesh, and we're gonna get a little bit of a soil layer going.
Okay, the tank is almost done. The last thing we're gonna do is plant it. With plants, we don't have that many options, right? You can either buy them or forage them. Well, that's all the other options as before. Who wrote this script?
You'd be surprised at the amount of decent vivarium plants that you can find at your local hardware store or garden center. We've got a whole video on commonly sold plants that do really well in vivariums and paludariums, so check that out here. You can also look online for other vivarium hobbyists near you, maybe on Facebook or in other affinity groups, and they might be open to trade or sell you their cuttings at a discount. Or just give it to you.
Sometimes people also sell plant cuttings at reptile fairs.
So we actually got our jewel orchid from a hobbyist at a reptile fair, and it's been growing super well and it was very cheap.
For this tank, we are gonna try our hand at foraging. Again, this can be a little difficult depending on where you live, but if you can find some ferns and mosses, those typically will thrive in a tropical vivarium. We are pretty lucky because creeping fig grows everywhere around here, and it's a really common vivarium plant that you would probably be able to find at your local garden center as well. For us in the Bay Area, we have surprisingly found them in parking lots, on walls, and you just have to be observant of your surroundings. For this build, we just took a small cutting of the creeping fig at one of the parking lots near us.
We also found some different mosses around that we're gonna sprinkle in this tank. We can't get much variety going in plants, but honestly, that's okay. Sometimes it looks really good to just have one or two types of plant, or even a tank of all moss. The plant foraging has the potential to bring all sorts of hitchhikers with it. Generally, we like to rinse it and do a quick visual inspection to make sure we're not getting a whole ant colony or something like that. But in this case, we don't mind a couple of our hitchhikers. We've actually got some springtails in one of the moss patches and some kind of wild type isopod. These guys are gonna be our cleanup crew. Every bioactive vivarium needs a cleanup crew. They're gonna break down waste and fungus, turn it all into nutrient-rich soil. If you gather moss, plants, or dirt from outside and you don't sterilize it, chances are you'll probably get some springtails, which is great.
But what if you want to prevent hitchhikers? There's a few things you can do, but at the very least, you should inspect the things that you've foraged for any obvious signs of hitchhikers, like slugs, and other bugs. Then you want to give them a good soak and a gentle rinse after to pry away any of those bugs that might be hanging on. You could also try something a little bit more extreme like CO2 bombing. If you lock all your plants in a container with some dry ice in water, the dry ice will sublimate, turning instantly from solid CO2 to gaseous CO2. And if you leave it overnight, the CO2 is going to fill up the whole tank or container, which the plants don't mind at all. But any animals that are in there are going to suffocate and die. If you do this, just make sure your container at least has a little bit of a crack or some way for the gas to escape, because if it builds up, you might have an explosion. So don't do that. Also, dry ice is very cold, very, very cold. So don't hurt yourself. Make sure you're wearing the proper protective equipment, and make sure none of your plants are directly touching it as well, because that's going to harm them. Plant quarantining and decontamination can honestly be its own video. So if you guys are interested in hearing our methods or for us to talk about it further, leave a comment down below and let us know.
To finish off our scape, we like to sprinkle a little bit of leaf litter on the ground. This is going to give you a really cool forest floor vibe, and it provides a good starter food for your cleanup crew. We gathered some magnolia leaves outside and baked them in the oven to thoroughly dry them and sterilize them. If you forage your leaf litter, make sure to get them from a plant that is safe for your animals, like magnolia, oak, or almond. If you're unsure about a specific plant and whether it's safe, just Google it. If you want, you can boil your leaves instead of baking them, but then you'd be depriving yourself of that satisfying crunch.
Okay, finally, last but definitely not least is lighting your vivarium. We got this aquarium light off of Amazon for around $8, and honestly, it's surprisingly bright, and in our experience can grow plants quite well.
If you guys want to learn more about vivarium lighting, check out our video on it right here.
Now with the vivarium put together, we kind of just have to sit back and wait. We mist down this tank twice a day, once in the morning and once in the afternoon or evening, and make sure that the moss is thoroughly soaked.
And then has time to dry out in between each watering. Waiting is going to be your best friend if you are making a budget vivarium. Okay, if you're building on a budget, usually you don't have the money to absolutely fill your tank with plants from the very beginning. Maybe you don't have quite as much hardscape. So the longer you wait, the more time you have for plants and mosses to grow in, establish, and spread, which is going to transform the skeleton of your hardscape into a dense and beautiful jungle.
We let 3 months go by. Before we show you how our budget tank is doing so far, do us a favor and hit that like button if you have found this video enjoyable so far, and you can comment down below as well. Back to the 3-month update.
Wow, okay, not bad at all for under $100. The creeping fig is covering all the walls. It's really the star of this tank. The shelves of carbonized cork are pretty hidden underneath the moss, and it gives some much needed structure to that background. The wild type isopods seem to be growing and thriving. A tank this size could be a fun home for a small day gecko or some invertebrates, or just a beautiful in-home display.
We hope this video inspires you guys to get out there and create, no matter how much money you're able to devote to your project.
We're thinking about trying a $0 build next, so let us know down in the comments if you'd be interested in seeing that.
If you made it this far, please let us know you stuck around by commenting a money emoji down below. And make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, because remember, this was for subscribers only, this section, so, you know, if you forgot, you know, maybe now.
So hype is a thing now, so you guys know.
Hype it up.
But thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. We'd like to thank you so much for 7,000 subscribers. Our goal is 10,000 by the end of the year. So thank you so much for helping us on our way.
Follow us on Instagram at Tangled Earth Vivariums, and we have a domain for our website now. So
at tangledearthvivariums.com. All one word. If you want to commission a build in the Bay Area or LA, send us an email, check out our website, and let us know.
Stay thrifty, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Bye.
Thoughts on the new background?
We made this little quick log with some air plants on it.